can share a slide. Well,
Hello, everyone. You're welcome again to the November 2024 edition of Clan Monthly Webinar Series. For those just joining us, this is the Cleaner and Healthier Nature Initiative, also known as Clan Initiative. We're a youth-led nonprofit organization currently based in Nigeria, and our focus is to promote environmental sustainability and public health across communities. And this is one of our programs at Clan. And our goal with our monthly webinar is to educate and enlighten people about important topics in climate, sustainability, environment, and public health. And we've been doing this for over 2 years. So normally we bring guest speakers who are professionals in different fields of sustainability, climate, and health. But this month we decided to look inwards and have our speakers from in-house. So this month we have people that are special to me and special to Clan. We've been doing this work for over 2 years. Adejoke is our co-lead at Clan Initiative, and Chukwudi is one of the project coordinators on our public health projects at Clan Initiative. So we have a very important topic before us today, and with a very big applause, I'll be inviting them to start. I'll be sharing my screen now so that they can start the presentation. Okay, over to you, Adejoke.
okay. Hello, everyone. I am Adejoke Ayọ̀adé, and today I and my colleague, Chukwudi presenters, will be talking about a very important topic. It's a topic that is of the essence, and we are
They could
going
have
to be
come from
discussing
paints,
it.
from packaging.
Yes, we want this to be as interactive as possible, so feel free to chip in when given the chance to do so. Chukwudi has been gracious enough to create this slide so that we have a visual representation of the topic that we're trying to dissect today. And that topic is microplastics in humans, and how does this microplastic go ahead to affect maternal health and also child development. Okay, so there's no way that we can talk about microplastics without talking about plastic pollution, because microplastic is a byproduct of plastic pollution. I mean, not necessarily a byproduct, but if there's no microplastic without actual plastics, right? And there's no plastic pollution without microplastics as well. Now, microplastics, plastics, we all know that it has become a menace in our society. And plastics itself, it's not a bad thing. Just as every invention in human history, it was invented to make our lives easier. But what has now become a problem is the indiscriminate disposal and the mismanagement of plastics. Now, in our society, and I'm talking about Nigeria for a fact, apart from the eyesore that plastic has now become in our environment and on our shorelines, we see that they have now become a menace and to us directly, because now we have plastic, clogging our drainage systems and in turn causing floods. In the 1950s, plastics were sort of like a new thing, and there was just about 2 million tons of plastic in, circulation. Fast forward to our age, we have about 450 million tons of plastics in circulation. Now, the problem, as I said before, is that these plastics are not properly managed and they are indiscriminately disposed, and that has not been controllable in the recent future. I'll go ahead to talk about microplastics. So this brings me to talk about the topic of today, which is microplastics. Now, microplastics are small, minute plastics, right, that are, some of them are used in the production of the actual plastics that you see, and some of them are used in the production of different household supplies. Plastics, like I said before, they're not bad. We use them in construction, we use them in food packaging, we use them in the medical field. It has helped humanity, if we're being frank. But humanity has not in turn thought about the effect of these guys in our environment. Because they are non-biodegradable, that is the problem that we have. I don't know if you have ever seen a pile of banana peels. Have you ever seen a pile of banana peels somewhere that, you know, is just not leaving that place? You can't see it because I'm giving that example because banana peels will go back to where it comes from. It's biodegradable, but plastics are non-biodegradable, so they tarry in the environment. Now, plastics are so synthetic, they are so fake that even the earth does not want to take it, right? The earth doesn't want to take it. It wants to push it back to you. And because the earth does not want to take it, it affects our ecosystem, it affects our wildlife, it affects our sea creatures. And we might think that these things do not affect us directly. I've given one example of how it affects us directly, and I said that flooding at least affects us directly. Now, if you do not know the in-depth effect of plastic pollution, that is what we are here to talk about. It affects us directly because who doesn't consume fish? I mean, I know some people are, you know, vegetarians, but at least a bunch of us consume, you know, fish. Now, let's look at, and for our age group, I'll say that, and let's just give an example of a 40-year-old person. How many weeks as a 40-year-old human being spent in life? And let's say that in that 40 years, how many times have you consumed fish? Let's even leave fish. What about other aquatic organisms that we consume, like shrimps and other crustaceans that we consume as humans? Now, think about the fact that these plastics tarry within these organisms, and think about how it has affected you by eating them. These things, they don't go away. So they bioaccumulate in our own system, right? They just don't go away. In fact, recent research has shown that about 114 species of sea creatures has been polluted with microplastics. Can you believe that? So there's no one that is left out. This is so bad that even seabirds that feed on these creatures are also polluted, right? So now let's go to microplastics. So microplastics are small. Some of them you cannot view with your naked eyes, right? You can only view them using a microscope, one, and they are about 3 to 5 millimeters in size. And they're divided into primary microplastics and secondary microplastics. Now, the primary microplastics exist in various forms, right? They exist in our detergents, they exist in our toothpaste, they're used in the production of some of the home supplies that we need for our everyday lives. That's one aspect of the primary microplastic. Another aspect of the primary microplastic is I'll give you examples of another aspect. They are used in the production of actual plastics, and some of them are microbeads. They call them microbeads. They call them nodules. Some are pallets, and some of them, they're just disposed into the environment accidentally during transportation. So sometimes when the ships that are carrying, you know, these microplastics to factories that produce plastics, they accidentally dispose them during transportation or during production. I'll share an example of an example of noodles in the chat box. I hope that you guys are following me and I'm as clear as I need to be. Now, there was a research that we did in August in the University of Lagos, and I was opportune to be a part of that research. At that time, I didn't even know what microplastics are, right? No, I've heard of microplastic, but I didn't know what nodules are, right? And I've never viewed a microplastic under the microscope. So we went to one of the beaches in Lagos, and somebody was saying that we're going to find nodules here. They're just like small, like pallets. They're small pallets. And I was like, are you sure? And then we started searching. We found so much that we couldn't even pick as much as we found. I'd never seen those things before. They exist and they're a menace, right? So I'll go to how these microplastics, apart from the ones that we can visually see, the ones that are so minute that we can only see under the use of a microscope are even worse. They exist in the environment and they tarry. They don't just exist in our water bodies, they exist in the atmosphere. So, like I was saying before, hold that thought. I was saying that a 40-year-old man that has been eating fish, just calculate, I'm not good at math, but how many weeks, let's even say that in a year, we have how many weeks in a year? I think 3. Can somebody answer me?
About 52 weeks in a year.
We have about what?
52 weeks in a year. 52.
52 weeks in a year, right?
Yeah.
So let's say that at least a quarter of 52, you eat fish, right? And let's just imagine that these fish, some of them are contaminated with microplastics. So, please, next slide. Okay. Some of them are contaminated with microplastics. And I tell you that microplastic does not go away. And I'll say why. A research showed that at least some researchers gathered a group of 8 people from different parts of the world, and they tested their poop. All 8 people from these different parts of the world, their poop tested for microplastic. There was microplastics in their feces. 8 people from different parts of the world. So it seems as though there is no escape for us, right? Because you do not only eat it, come to contact with it through digestion, you can also come to contact with these guys through inhalation. Basically, the air that we breathe, we're sniffing in microplastic. Because as I said to you before, there are 2 types. There are the ones, there's primary microplastics and there's secondary microplastics. And I said the primary microplastics are the ones that we find in our home supplies, in our toothpastes, in our detergents, in our textiles that we use, because they are used in the production of these items, right? And I also said that there's a second type of the primary microplastics that are the items that are used in the production of the bigger plastics. So those ones are just, they enter into the environment through indiscriminate disposal, so accidental disposal. While the other ones, they enter into the environment through, if you brush your teeth, now, for instance, you have to rinse out, right? And when you rinse out, it goes through the drains. When it goes through the drains, it goes back into our oceans and into our water bodies. You're using detergent, it has microplastics in it, it's used in the production of microplastics. You wash your clothes, you pour it in the drain, or you use your washing machine, it goes through the drain and it goes back into our water bodies. So that is how they make their way into our water bodies. The secondary type of microplastic, the secondary microplastics are gotten from just the macroplastics that have been acted upon by weather. So when you see your nylon or what's it called, or a bottle, a plastic bottle just in the environment, eventually they will be acted upon by weather, sunlight, rain, and then they break down into smaller pieces. So basically, this is how both primary and secondary microplastics enter into our environment. And I'm talking about how it gets in contact with us as human. And I've talked about ingestion through consuming through consuming sea creatures, the first one. Also, these microplastics, they exist in the plastics that we use in our homes. For instance, I've heard that, you should stop using using plastic to microwave our food, for instance. I still do, because glass is expensive. However, it's something that we need to look at, because apart from the fact that these microplastics will break down and contaminate the food, we also have issues like the additives that are used to bond this plastic together. They leach into our food. Plastics are created using carbon and hydrogen bonds, right? And there are certain additives like phthalates. I think that's the right pronunciation. I think is it phthalates? PTH, yeah, are used to bond as atomic bonds to bond this carbon and hydrogen together. And these additives are chemical additives that are harmful to our human existence, right? So that is not just by ingesting these things. It's also because in the production, like I said, it's so synthetic that even the earth cannot take it. If the soil cannot take these things, how do we humans want to absorb it? Do you get what I mean? So ingestion is one way. Inhalation is the one that blew my mind. Basically, you're just doing your own thing. Let's even say that you start using glasswares to microwave, you're doing the right thing. I'm not even going to eat fish. Trust me, if you don't eat fish, it is inside goats. I think Ayomide did, he did something, a research, is MSc research. And I think they found on some kind of mammal, and they did find plastic in the intestine of that mammal, right? So if you say that you don't want to eat fish, you will try eat meat. But let's even say I want to be vegetarian, I don't want to eat these things. It exists in the soil, and research has shown that it migrates from the soil into some of the food that we eat. Okay, you don't want to eat at all. It exists in our atmosphere. You are breathing in. Basically, a 40-year-old adult is just a walking garbage. You and I are contaminated people just walking around. Because when you want to do the right thing, you can breathe in microplastics because they tarry in the environment and they are in the atmosphere. Another way that they have contact with us humans is through dermal contact. On this slide, you can see that your skin can actually absorb microplastics, right? So we have inhalation, we have ingestion, and we have dermal contact. Those are the exposure pathways to us as humans. So now I'm going to invite my colleague, Chukwudi Santos. He's going to take us through why we are here today, because we want to talk about how it affects maternal health and child development. So Chukwudi, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Adejoke. Thank you for that insight. Microplastics are so minute that they can be found almost everywhere in the environment. Now we're talking about how it affects maternal health and child development. Recent study and research have shown that these microplastics have been detected in meconium. Now, this is the first feces of a newborn baby. How did it get in there? That's a story. Then it has also been discovered in amniotic fluid. And these are the fluid that cushions the fetus during pregnancy. Now, microplastics have also been detected in breast milk. They have also been detected in the maternal stool, the mother's feces. And multiple research have shown abundance of microplastics in placenta. Now, these things can get into the maternal body and the baby through what my colleague said earlier. They can be ingested, they can inhale, and they can also go through the skin pores. How does it affect the growth of a baby? Now, research, these are recent research, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, have shown that they can restrict the growth of the fetus. They can also lead to stillbirth and miscarriage. And they have also discovered that it can cause a lot of metabolic disorders. This includes oxidative stress and inflammation of the body. So microplastics has gone from affecting the environment to human health, and is becoming a very big problem in the world right now. How can we reduce microplastics in the environment? We've heard of the 3 R's. You can refuse, you can reduce it, or you can choose to recycle. Most of the microplastic, they end up in the environment, so they stay a very long time without decaying. Over time, they break down and they result to microplastic and nanoplastics. So if you choose to recycle them, we have recycling facilities, or in advanced countries, there are separate bins for waste. There is a waste that is particularly for plastics. You can put it in there, and when the waste operative, when they come, they have a way of recycling it. Or you can choose to simply refuse it. When you go to the shopping market or the mall and they give you a plastic bag, you can just choose to refuse. You don't need to get your groceries with plastic. Or you can also reduce. So these are the ways that you can actually reduce plastic in the environment. Then another one is to extend the producer's responsibility. In advanced countries, I think the Lagos state government did something of that recently, where those that produce the plastic actually pay for the damage they cause in the environment. So if Coca-Cola produces plastic or PET bottles, they will have to take the cost of taking it out in the environment. That's why some of the commercials you see on the televisions, they will always tell you to recycle or bring it back to the facility. So they are the ones that will pay for the effect it has on the environment. Now, banning single-use plastics, because single-use plastics are the ones that actually generate these microplastics. Single-use plastics like styrofoam. Styrofoam, you only use them once and you don't get to use them anymore. Most of the plastic, their lifespan is about 30 to 1 hour, and you never get to use them again. But they can be in the environment for a very long time, some 50, 100, and 200 years. So placing a ban on these things can actually help. The United Kingdom actually banned single-use plastic from last year. It's October 2023. They placed a ban on single-use plastics. Lagos state government, they actually placed a ban on styrofoam. I don't know if that has commenced yet. Ayomide, has it started? The ban on styrofoams.
Yeah, I think they started when was that? A couple of months ago in Lagos. I was following it at some point. Yeah.
Because that's the beginning. So there are other plastic that also needs to be banned. Then resigning plastic for circularity. Circularity means when plastic, after using plastic, it can actually go into something else instead of taking it away from the environment, and it causes menace. And creating an awareness campaign, just like the one we are doing now, telling people how bad these plastics are. This community awareness will help to school the young ones on sustainability, using alternatives instead of plastics for their products, and it will help to reduce microplastics. So these are the ways that you can actually help to reduce or to actually prevent yourself from the exposure of the effects of these microplastics. Thank you, Mr. Ayomide, for giving us the time. But
it looks like we just lost Chukwudi. Yeah, but okay, we have Chukwudi. It looks like we just lost Chukwudi, but I believe he should join back in a bit. So if you have, okay, he's back. But if you have questions, you can start putting together your questions to ask Chukwudi. Hey, Chukwudi, are you back?
I think
Yeah.
So I have a very short video that's very interesting. It will actually portray and tell us the effects and how these microplastics is becoming a menace to the world. Mr. Ayomide.
Just a minute.
Found in a fetus. This is the most important story of the day, perhaps the most alarming story of the day too. Microplastics found in a fetus, a pre-polluted baby. I know it sounds horrific and I'm doing it on purpose just to drive home the horror that we're all unleashing on the next generation. We may have the latest technology, we may have all the money, we may have top-notch health care, but we are still killing our children with plastic, choking their future. Plastic is on the streets, in the oceans, the mountains, in the wildlife, with the seahorse. Microplastics have touched the deep sea. Even sunlight has not been able to do that. There is plastic in Point Nemo, the most remote spot in the ocean. Plastic has been found in a dead whale's stomach, in every single sea turtle that researchers have tested. There is plastic in Antarctica too. Plastic was found stuck around the neck of a seal, entangled around the beak of a stork. On the French Pyrenees, in bottled water, in human stool, there was plastic in the stomach of a water flea, and now there is plastic in the human placenta. Microplastics have found their way to the home of an unborn baby, and this is a first. It's never happened before. The placenta is crucial to a fetus's development. It is supposed to provide oxygen to the baby, provide nutrition. Microplastics have polluted it. Researchers examined the placenta of 6 women. All of them had normal pregnancies and birth. But what researchers found was shocking. There were microplastic particles in 4 placentas, both on fetal and maternal side. Microplastics were also found in the membrane within which the fetus develops. Let that sink in. Researchers analyzed about 4% of each placenta and they found a dozen plastic particles in each. Now imagine the total volume of plastic in the entire placenta. The plastics came in different colors, red, blue, orange and pink. And they came bearing threat to the babies. 2 years ago, a whale died from eating 80 plastic bags. Last year, the world lost a baby dugong to plastic. So many other marine animals have met the same fate. Imagine then what plastics can do to a human fetus. Experts say microplastics could carry harmful chemicals. They can upset the fetus's immune system, reduce the fetus's growth, even cause long-term damage. The microplastics found in the placentas were around 10 microns in size. That's around 0.01 millimeter. It's small enough to be carried in the bloodstreams. What happened to those babies? Are they healthy? Researchers have not been able to assess them yet, but they say microplastics could have entered their bodies. Cyborg baby, that's what they're calling them. It's like having a cyborg baby, they say, no longer composed only of human cells, but a mixture of biological and inorganic entities. This is a quote from the lead researcher of this study. How did microplastic particles enter human placentas to begin with? Scientists say they may have been inhaled or consumed by the mothers. They could have come from paints, from packaging, cosmetics, and personal care products, things that all of us use all over the world all the time. 6 mothers were studied as part of this project. Plastic was found in the placenta of 4 of them. Yes, it is a small sample size, but it's significant in terms of probability, 4 out of 6. How do you know it may not happen to you or to someone you know? Let me ask you this again. Is this world safe enough for our children? We cannot provide a safe home for them in our wombs. Once the baby is born, you cannot feed her milk because there is plastic in milk too. Fruits and vegetables are coated with wax and infused with chemicals. Meat has harmful growth hormones. The air has pollution. The water has chemicals. Forget achieving super immunity. Today, keeping our children healthy, giving them basic health, has become a challenge. Let me end with this. In most mythologies, the earth is referred to as a mother, Mother Earth, we say. Her womb is now polluted with plastic. And now, so is the womb of human mothers. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news.
Okay, that's it.
So microplastic is now a major problem all over the world, and these are research, and they are evidence-based. They've discovered microplastics in human body, not just human body, in pregnant women. So we never can tell what will happen next.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Chukwudi and Adejoke, for your very insightful and great presentation. So right now, I would welcome questions. Chukwudi, is it a good time for people to ask questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So please, if you have questions, if you came today with questions that, microplastic in humans, and if you are curious about their impact on maternal health and child development, you can bring on your questions now to Chukwudi. Chukwudi just got a master's in public health from University of Derby in the UK. So it's loaded with so many wonderful stuff, information, knowledge. So let's test him. All right.
I hope you're not setting me up.
No. Just kidding. So there's a chat here from Chinyaka Ayawu. Wow, this topic is very enlightening. Microplastics, even in newborns, in placentas, even breast milk now, this is scary. I probably missed where the presenters talked about this. Please, how do microplastics get into the environment, considering that plastics are not biodegradable?
So microplastics are byproducts of plastics. Now, they are not biodegradable, but they can actually be broken down into pieces. And these processes occur as a result of ultraviolet rays and mechanical processes. So over time, they break down into minute and small pieces, which we can barely see with our eyes. And they are left in the atmosphere, in the surfaces, and anywhere in the environment. And we get it back, or we inhale, we ingest, or it can even go in through the pores of the skin. These are evidenced with what we've seen in the breast milk. How can microplastic get into the breast milk if not ingested by the mother? So these processes actually break down plastic into the microplastics. And that is how they get into the environment.
Thank you, Chukwudi. Chinyaka, did that answer your question?
Hello. Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Nice presentation, Chukwudi. I came in a bit late, but I was able to grasp at least a substantial amount of the presentation. And my question is that, okay, now that we have realized that plastic is now being found in newborns, in infants, through these ingestations from the mothers, what will be the best, of course, the most laudable way, or the way we can actually go about it, which is generic, is that, okay, plastic should be banned or plastic should be reduced drastically. But we know that that's a very long-term goal. What will be the short-term goal? Like, okay, you are a pregnant woman now, or every woman that is potentially going to be a mother. What will be the first, like the maybe quick fix steps they should take to prevent things like this, to prevent that, okay, whenever they give birth or whenever they get pregnant, to prevent them or to actually make them be safe from being able to ingest some of these things that will later get to harm their babies and infants and newborns. I hope you get the question.
Yeah, I get the question. Like banning plastics is a long time ago. You're talking about the immediate way to reduce microplastic.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I will go with looking for alternatives instead of using the plastic to heat your food in the microwave. There are other ways you can heat your food. You can go with the breakables, because when you hit the microplastic, when you hit the plastic, they actually break down the microplastics. Then another way is reducing the exposure outside. Now, it has been seen that fish, these aquatic animals, the plastics get into them and eventually we eat fishes. Now, these things can actually be reduced. You reduce the fish consumption. Then other ways, the personal care products. We use the toothpaste, we use the cream, and all those cosmetics. If pregnant mothers can actually reduce how they use those things, it can also help. So we've seen that microplastics is almost inevitable, but we can actually reduce the exposure. And reducing the exposure will also reduce the effect it has on the mother and child.
Thank you for your answer, Chukwudi. Mr. Olainka, did that clarify your question, or was that helpful? Was that response helpful? Well, or do you have follow-up questions or further questions? And if any other person has questions, this is like Q&A session where we are asking our guests or our speakers questions about the presentation that they just did. So if you are just joining, if you missed the presentation, we'll do well to put this on YouTube almost immediately after this presentation, so you can catch up or watch the replay after this presentation. And if you registered for this webinar, we'll try to make the slides available via the email with which you registered to. So we're still taking more questions. So if you have more questions, you can ask Chukwudi.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Hi, good evening.
Okay, I have another question. So I'm just thinking, is there any approach that the government is adopting or have implemented to reduce these microplastics? Because I know, I think early this year or late last year, there was a tax implemented on sugary and carbonated drinks, and this was done to reduce the rate of consumption of these drinks. such that you can reduce the complications or the disease associated with sugary beverages. And because of the increase in the tax on these products, some consumers are deterred from taking them. So I'm wondering, is there any approach that the government have implemented, maybe making some of these plastics more expensive so that people don't go for them anymore and maybe go for other safer alternatives or something like that? I'm just curious. Thank you.
Yeah, I think in United Kingdom, for instance, when you go for shopping, you pay for plastic bags. So if you don't want to, that's a policy to actually reduce plastic in the environment. They encourage people to reuse the plastic that they have. So instead of paying for this plastic bag, you either get it from your home when you are coming, or you just pack your things like that. So then another way is single-use plastic have been banned. I was telling Ayomide earlier, in Lagos State, styrofoam, for example, a ban has been placed on it. And I know one eastern state is either Anambra or Imo State have also followed suit. So styrofoams are plastics. And when left in the environment over time, they break down to microplastics. So these are some of the ways the government can actually come in to reduce, just that people will be stubborn, but it actually helps to reduce plastics in the environment. So those are some of the ways the government can also do that. And I think in the US, there are also initiatives and policies in place to reduce plastic pollution.
Yeah, absolutely. The US is a very big country, and we have the East Coast, we have the West Coast, and it's also kind of polarized politically. So there are some states that are like pro sustainability, pro environment, but luckily I live in Washington State, like which is kind of very progressive, and yeah, there's high improvements, and they really encourage the use of reusable bags, and they really discourage use of plastic bags. So if you go into a grocery store or a place to shop, you have to pay. You have to pay for the bag if you are getting a plastic bag. So most people, or many people, they try to bring their bags to.
Can that policy work in Nigeria? Paying for plastic bag when you go for shopping?
Yeah, it
Because
can
when you go
work.
to ShopRite 10 times, they give you a plastic bag 10 times.
Right. Yeah.
And you virtually don't do anything with it. You still have to just and trash.
Yeah.
So
I have a friend on this call. He's in California. He used to be in sorry, I'm putting you out, Israel. So he used to be in Nigeria too, but he's currently in California, and California is also one of those states that is really very pro sustainability. But before I probably invite him for a comment or question that he has, one of the takeaway actions or call to actions for everyone on this call is that the next time you're going to buy something or get something, try to take a reusable bag along, either the bag that you have used before, a big bag, so you don't have to take the plastic bag from the grocery store, or it starts with someone, then eventually or gradually becomes a ripple effect. You can even post it on your WhatsApp status that, hey, today I went to ShopRite without taking any of their bags. It starts like that. And let's say like every week, five of us, you go, I went to ShopRite today without. That's even a trend that, at Clan we can jump on. We can start from there. That, hey, no reusable, no plastic bag month. So you go to ShopRite or whatever grocery store you go to, and you take your bag. So you can jump on that trend or that challenge. I don't know if Israel has any comments. I saw you unmuted. You were gonna say something. Do you have any comments?
Yeah.
Nice.
Good
Good to have
morning.
you. Good morning.
Yeah, I came late. I just woke up. I said, wow, the
Oh,
topic is
nice.
kind of interesting because presently I was working yesterday. I think I wrote an op-ed
Wow.
on plastic. What's the topic again? My head is kind of full. I'm sorry. On plastic waste replacing our fishes in Lagos, Nigeria.
Oh, really?
Time to act before it's too late because I'm trying to work on something that will curb plastic waste around coastal areas because that's actually the end goal of the waste. After leaving the landfills at times, some people claim to do their segregation, but it ends up in our waterways. So at least if there are policies around coastal areas, policies on microplastic itself, I think there's a ppm for microplastics. I think, I don't know, with 10 ppm, 50 ppm, something like that. And I know most countries used to ban all those. They are very, very particular about what they are banning, not just SUPs. It's just like you banning raw sugar. Some people used to ban sugar in processed foods, not sugar itself. You understand the amount of gram that should enter a a processed food. So what I spoke with Dr. Femi on a policy brief that was to write, and he said they are on a mission to ban some additives in plastics that is causing the whole health issues and even for recycling purposes. So I hope their bill get passed. It's going to be a success on for Nigeria. But another thing is our behavioral culture in Nigeria again. Like you said, where has banned plastic bags and all sort of unsustainable bags. And Boku supermarket, I saw a video online recently that Boku supermarkets in Lagos told their customers to bring in their reusable bags for shopping. So it's a sustainable approach, which I believe if a big supermarket like ShopRite can do that also, it will go a long way. It will go a long way. I think it starts from if they can start, taxing, because I think taxing is a way to scare businesses to bring them in. When you tax them on their packaging, they will find a policy. They will change their business policy. Okay, we are not selling with plastic bags again. Bring in your. So I believe our conversation, like last time we came here, I said our conversation was get to the government. That's one thing and I will still stand on my word because after discussing here, what is the next step? We have powerful points. Most of what we used to dish out so many points, and that's why I love what Minuri is doing now. Is getting closer to these conferences. They're allowing to speak, to hear, because they need to hear us about all these ideas that we are saying here, because those are actually the way we can get our solutions out there. So microplastic should be something that must be dealt with in our food, in our soil, in our water. A lot of studies that we saw that most scientists have done inside the blood, lungs, testicles. They are kind of scary, but I still tell you that we can believe. Do you know some people still don't believe that these things are real? That how can I have microplastic in my blood? But we've been drinking bottled water for how many years now? At least one portion will have leached into our system one way or the other. You understand? So I think we are on the right way to the solution, but at least let's find a way to get our message down to the top guys, the decision makers. More is why I'm doing environmental policy and management. So at least one day I will sit down with a policymaker. I will also be a policymaker to enact a change to these policy changes. So that's it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Israel. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, contributions, feedback before we wrap up, before we call it a day? And if you know any way through which we can get our message across out there to, like, let's say you know someone in government or a policymaker, where some of the things that we discuss here on our platform at Clan, we can get it out there, because the ultimate goal is to effect change. It's not just to talk about, just like Israel said, it's not just to discuss. We want to actually impact and effect change in our community. So
AY, I think
yeah.
one other thing we can do, someone like, we have some humble leaders out there now that they answer the call. Someone like Dr. Femi, I know you can bring him to your platform.
Yeah,
And
Dr.
from
Femi
there,
has been here before, but we should
yeah,
invite him again. Yeah,
and you
yeah.
know, there are people like in Lagos State government climate change department. I know Mr. Bankole. I forgot.
Oh,
Yeah, Mr. Bankole. I don't know
okay.
how we can just get across to him. It's like a voice in the Ministry of Environment in Lagos State, and he's doing a lot. So I think we should speak to Miniru. There's some we can just find someone to just speak to him and bring him in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, I'll follow up with you. We talk about
Yeah,
that.
Ayomide, I was discussing with Adejoke, you know, the chairman of the Lagos West Forum. Like I told you, I sent you a message on that. So they're having the Lagos West Forum, I think next month in Radisson Blue. So it's all about making policies and changes that will reduce waste, particularly plastic waste in Lagos State. So I'll try to talk to him because he's closer to Ministry of Environment, and he has been doing that over time. So I think he has a way of talking to them, and these changes can be, be effected, because these are the people that can actually speak to governments, and they will help us to get the message across.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's very good. Yeah, we'll work on all those next steps, action steps. Yeah. Thank you, Chukwudi. Thank you, Israel. Thank you, Adejoke, and thank you for everyone that's participated and joined. I hope this has been worth your time. We can take one more question before we close for this month's webinar. So if you have a question, you can ask now. We can take one more question before we wrap up. Okay, so if there is no question, we can conclude at this point. Thank you again, and we have one more for this year, for 2024. We'll try to see if maybe one of these people that Israel mentioned or Chukwudi mentioned, we can try to get them here next month. But if not, we'd look into bringing them for 2025. All right. It's morning where I am in the US, so I was going to say have a wonderful rest of your day. So maybe to Israel, I would say have a wonderful rest of your Saturday. Then to the rest people, have a wonderful rest of your evening, and see you next month. Thank you. We appreciate your time. Thanks for joining. See you. Bye.